I'm just going to start this video by eating a segment of a sweet clem. It's a sweet clem. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. It's been a while, but today we're going to be looking into UFC 305. I missed it last week. I had some technical difficulties, hence why this video is a little bit different. Today, I normally write a script. Today I haven't. I'm just gonna go on the topology. I'm just gonna pick who's gonna win. Yeah, easy mode. Jumping right into it, we've got Stuart and Nicole versus Jesus Aguila. I'm going to go with Stuart Nicole. He's a hot prospect out of Australia, and I think he's looking to make a big bang. He's a hot prospect. He's looking to make an entrance, so it's going to be good to see. I'm going to go with Stuart Nicole. I want to say by knockout, and I think round two. I think a round two knockout. 4 of his last 5 wins are by knockouts. That's on the regional scene, I do believe. Yeah, so this is his debut in the UFC, but he's a hot prospect. He's coming out of Australia, New Zealand areas where they've got a pretty good fighting culture, strong dudes out of there. So it'll be good to see. Yeah, on to the next fight. Next up, Keenan Song versus Ricky Glenn. What can I say about this one except for Song probably takes it? It's harder to get into the UFC. I say this in like every pick video. It's harder to get into the UFC if you're from outside the US. Guys from outside the US are just at the lower levels are just like better. They're just better because it's harder for them to get there. There's a higher standard set for entering the UFC from outside of the US. So we're going to go with Keenan Song. We're going to say it's going to be a decision, though. It's going to be a boring decision. I say boring decision. There's going to be some good moments, some rocky moments for both fighters, but I do think Keenan Song really takes it home. Probably wins the fight. Unanimous decision, I'm going to say. On to the next fight. Tom Nolan versus Alex Reyes. Got to go with Tom Nolan. Sticking with the theme of picking the Aussies over the US guys. It just needs to be said. It's harder to get into the. I say it every video and nearly every pick. Sometimes it's harder to get into the UFC if you're outside the US. You've marketed. There's a higher standard, and if you manage to get in there, you've done it. You know, you've proven that you are an upper echelon more so than the Yanks who are just there. They just drive down to Vegas and visit the PI, it seems. Just absolutely shitting on the Yanks. But yeah, we're going to go with Tom Nolan. Topology's awful and doesn't show us any information these days, apparently. But that's fine. Looks like it's going to be a scrap. We're going to go Tom Nolan. I think it's going to be a decision, but I could see maybe a mid round 2, early round 3 TKO to Tom Nolan, but I do think it's going to go to decision. Yeah, Tom Nolan, potentially TKO. I think a decision. Jack Jenkins versus Heber Burns. What can I say about this? Heber Burns is being fed to Jack Jenkins. Heber Burns is on a 3-fight losing streak, I do believe. Yes, he is. Whereas Jack Jenkins most recently lost his most recent fight. He lost that to Chepe Mariscal. Chepe Mariscal, aren't they? But yeah, we're going to go with Jack Jenkins. He's being fed a sacrificial lamb, and that's good, I guess, for him. So yeah, we're going to go Jack Jenkins. Probably a pretty easy win. Probably a TKO, but we'll see. Casey ONeil versus Luana Santos. I'm going to have to pick Luana Santos. She's a better fighter. I think she's more well-rounded in general, which is a shame because normally I wouldn't flinch at picking Casey ONeil because she's from like Scotland, and you know I'm from the UK, so you gotta represent even if it's delusional. But no, Luana Santos is probably going to take this one. I think probably by decision. It's a women's fight, and women don't typically finish each other all that much. So I could see it going to a decision. I could see a unanimous decision for Luana Santos. I don't know. Yeah, I'm going to say unanimous decision for Luna Santos. It's a women's fight, so either way, you can just pick it to go to the decision, and that's a pretty safe bet if you're a gambling man. Just a little bit of advice for you there. Just pick all the women's fights to go the distance. It's a safe bet. Josh Culibao versus Ricardo Ramos. We're going to go with Josh Culibao. We're sticking with the theme of picking the Aussies. For fuck's sake, I'm rocking a mullet and a mustache. You can tell that I'm biased this round of picks. We're going to pick Josh Culibao to beat Ricardo Ramos, obviously. I just think Josh Culibao is better, slightly better everywhere, which makes him a better fighter all round, if that makes sense. I think we could see a submission, but I wouldn't be surprised if it went to a decision. I think it's going to go to a decision, personally. But I do think Josh Culibao wins a majority decision. Maybe even unanimous, but I think it might be a bit fuddy-duddy, you know? Who knows? Who could say? On to the next fight. Junior Tafa versus Vater Walker. It shouldn't be a secret. I'm picking Junior Tafa. Pretty easy. I'm picking Junior Tafa by knockout. Vater Walker is very similar to his brother Johnny Walker, in the sense that they just have very low fight IQ. That's what we'll call it. Low fight IQ. Maybe it's poor ability to follow a game plan. Maybe it's poor ability to adapt once you're in there. But yeah, so I think he's going to suffer a fate similar to his brother. I think he's going to get knocked out. His half brother, I suppose. But I think he's going to get knocked out. He's going to get frozen like Elsa. But yeah, I think Junior Tafa by knockout. But who knows? Because, if he's anything like his brother, because I've picked against him, Vater will fucking get a really good knockout or something. But yeah, I want to go Junior Tafa by knockout over Vater Walker. Li Jingliang versus Carlo Prates. We're going to go with Carlos. I'm a big Li Jingliang fan. I want to pick Li Jingliang. I hope he wins. But being realistic, we're going to go with Carlos. I'm fairly sure he's finished everyone since getting to the UFC, and I'm fairly sure he was just knocking dudes out in LFA as well, yeah. And then there's a few shaky performances on Li Jingliang's record that you can't ignore. So we're going to go with Carlos, and we're going to say by a TKO. I think by TKO, I think Li Jingliang might get knocked out. I think it's a high possibility. So yeah, we're going to go with Carlos Prates. Tuivasa versus Jairzinho Rozenstruik. I want to pick Tuivasa, but I've made that mistake in the past. I've said, this is potentially his last chance and he should be taking this seriously, and I don't think he did. And he's lost 4 fights in a row. He's lost 4 of his last 5 fights, 4 of them in a row. Not to say I don't have a bit of a strange history with Rozenstruik, because whenever I bet on Rozenstruik, he loses. And whenever I say to someone, yeah, Rozenstruik's pretty good, I'm a fan of Rozenstruik, he knocks dudes out as well. You could put a bet on that. Some people, they take the bet and they win it on my advice, but I can't seem to win the bet on Rozenstruik. So I'm going to pick Rozenstruik against my better judgment. I do think this is like Ty's chance to save himself from the fires of being expulsion from the UFC, if you will. But no, I think Rozenstruik gets this one. I think it's a knockout. It's going to be a finish. I think no matter what, it's going to be a knockout in this fight. I think Rozenstruik by second round TKO. Mateusz Gamrot versus Dan Hooker. I want to pick Dan Hooker because I want to stick with the Australian-New Zealand theme of this video, but I am going to have to pick Mateusz Gamrot. I think he's just slightly better everywhere, and I think that Dan Hooker has the ability to beat him, but I think the second Mateusz appears to be getting an edge over Dan Hooker, that's when Dan Hooker starts to lose. Whenever someone appears to be getting an edge over him, that's when he's kind of like, he starts like counting himself out, and you can see him like kind of deflate even in the cage, and that's happened in all of his losses. He gets hurt. He's having trouble finding the pathway to do what he wants to do, and he gets dejected, and he kind of defeats himself before he's defeated. You see that a lot with Dan Hooker, in my opinion. So I'm going to go with Mateusz Gamrot, but I think it'll be a decision. I don't think he'll finish Dan Hooker. If he does, I think it'll be a submission, but I do think it'll go to a decision. So I'm going to say Mateusz Gamrot by a unanimous decision. KaraFrance versus Steve Erceg. Let's just say it how it is. The champ, Steve Erceg. Okay, because in my opinion, and in a lot of other people's opinions, he beat Pantoja. I think it's a very reasonable assertion that he beat Pantoja. So I don't give a fuck what the UFC says. I don't give a fuck what the judges say. Steve Erceg is the champ. I predicted him to be the champ, and he is the champ. Fight me about it. I do think Steve Erceg beats KaraFrance. I'm a fan of KaraFrance as well, but I think Steve Erceg's just going to be a little bit crisper, a little bit cleaner, a little bit snappier, just more accurate, faster to the punch in general. I think it's going to be an entertaining back and forth, but I do think Erceg gets the TKO, but I do think it'll be late in the fight, and if he doesn't get it, I think it's going to be a unanimous decision for Steve Erceg. Dricus Du Plessis. Dricus Du Plessis versus Israel Adesanya. Dricus Du Plessis versus Israel Adesanya. I'm picking Dricus Du Plessis. If you're a fan of the channel, if you're a fan of my content, you know I'm not a fan of Israel Adesanya. I think he's boring. I think he's full of himself. I think he just chats absolute nonsense, absolute bollocks on a daily basis. It's a regular occurrence. You can go onto any of his social medias and he'll just be there chatting the most insane bollocks you've ever heard in your life. But yeah, so I'm picking Dricus Du Plessis. I'm picking Dricus to absolutely ragdoll Izzy. I know Izzy's got a good takedown defense and he's good at getting back up if he is taken down, but I don't think he's. I think it's like a Khabib situation when Dricus gets hold of some dudes. Like when Dricus gets hold, you see like the acknowledgement of shit. He's strong. It's a strong dude, and I think Izzy's going to get that shock. And I think Dricus can play a very similar game plan to Sean Strickland and just beat Izzy to everything on the outside and then wrestle on the inside. That's the difference, is that he can and he will wrestle on the inside. Get on the inside and he'll wrestle and he'll push for those takedowns and he'll try and dominate those positions. But Izzy is tricky. I think Dricus Du Plessis. I could see him submitting Israel Adesanya. I could see Dricus Du Plessis choking out Israel Adesanya. I could see him knock him out too, but I think Dricus might choke out Israel Adesanya. I'm a bit up in the air of which way it's going to go because Izzy's tough and it could also go to a decision, but no. I think Dricus Du Plessis might actually submit Israel Adesanya. And I think that's what I'm going to predict. I've got a feeling about it. So I'm going Dricus Du Plessis by submission, as crazy as it sounds, over Israel Adesanya. And that's all. If you enjoyed this video, please leave us a like. Subscribe for more. I've got more content on the way. Until next time, keep your chin down. Keep swinging. Peace and love. I'll see you around.